guys, how you doing? It's Henry at Mowers and Blowers again. This is my free trash pick curb find. Craftsman Lt1000. It's got a 16 horsepower Briggs flathead engine in it. As you guys saw in my previous 2 or 3 episodes, just needed a carb clean, tighten up the battery terminals, clean the carburetor, and it started right up. I shined it up with ATF fluid. As you can see, it looks great. Wiped it all down so that it looks presentable. This is the first Craftsman Lt1000 that I've had that has a hour meter, but it doesn't look stock to me. There's a wire hanging out of it like that. Somebody put it on there. Anyway, it's only got 232 hours on it. Not much at all, if that's the real, meter. Anyway, it drives, it mows, does everything it should. However, when you're driving it a little bit, slam on the brakes, and it still moves a little. So I think the brakes need either new pads or just needs to be tightened. There's an adjustment screw to tighten the caliper. So that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to find out whether or not it needs new pads or if it just needs an adjustment. I'm going to take the wheel off. So first we're going to take the wheel off, and all you basically need to take these wheels off is a jack, which I'll jack it up right now. Bunch of wrenches, probably 7/16 or a 1/2 inch. Get some 3/8 ready in case you're not sure. Pair of vice grip pliers, just to squeeze this rubber thingy off. Things are so hard to get off, you usually bust them. If you had a hook or something like that, you could probably get it off, but I don't care. See? Just yank it off. This goes over this floating washer to keep debris out of that area. Because of the anti-seize or the grease on the transaxle, you're able to slide the wheel off and on pretty easily. There's an E-clip on here, not a C-clip, an E-clip. Has a little notch in the middle. Just take a flathead screwdriver and just twist it, and that E-clip comes off. See? It's an E-clip, not a C-clip. Take the washer off, and let's hope it just comes off. Because usually the rear wheels, it's very difficult to get it off. Please, just come off. Looks like it's good. Careful of the keyway in here. Looks good. So there's the brakes. As you can see, this part here leads to the brake pedal on the front to the left. It pulls this twisted bar over here, and it's twisted like that, so that when you pull it, it twists and pushes the brake pad in here in. See how that moves? It seems to move freely. So I'm thinking it needs an adjustment, or the pad is busted, or the pad is worn out.
I've busted a lot of nuts on here. Busted a nut. Anyway, what you should use is some penetrating oil to loosen up that nut. Today I'm using penetrating oil from my friends at Lucas Oil Products. That's the adjustment one. This is the one that holds the this assembly together. And caliper over here. Be sure not to lubricate the brake pad, otherwise you'll go flying even faster. First thing I'm going to do is maybe I should just try and tighten up this screw and see if it holds it better. It's a 1/2 inch. Ooh. You know, that might have done it. Yeah, feels pretty stiff already. I'm spinning the wheel on the right side here. To test it, even if you spin the axle, right, it doesn't appear that the brakes actually move. I think the transmission has to be engaged. See, if you turn the axle, that disc doesn't turn. So I just put it in gear. I'll take it out of gear. I'm going to start up the engine and then put it in gear. As you guys saw, that's all it needed was an adjustment. It didn't need new brake pads, even though I don't really know, but it seems to stop the brakes with a little bit more slack at the end. You know, I could actually push the brake lever down a whole inch after that already stops. So it's got plenty of brake pads is what I'm thinking, you know. So as you guys know, I love to say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? So I think we just turn this adjustment nut in I believe it was a little more than a half a turn, almost a full turn, and we tightened up the lever that pushes the brake pad in so that it will stop the disc from turning while the transmission's engaged. So I think that's it, man. And I'm not going to disassemble that and change the brake pads. I'm going to take this out for a ride, maybe, and check it out. But it seems like I said, you know, while it's in gear, the transmission's spinning, transaxle's turning. When I engage the brake lever, it stops the disc from turning. So that's all we need it to do. And that's it. I'm going to clean this up a little bit and put the wheel back on. So normally before you put the wheel back on, you want to make sure that it's got some anti-seize on the transaxle, right? So that if you want to take the wheel off next time, it's a lot easier to take off. But I don't have any anti-seize. I was supposed to get some from Pro Parts Direct, but they're a little bit backed up, you know. Anyway, so in the meantime, as you know, I finally figured out how to put a grease cartridge into this grease gun that my buddy Doug Leap from Doug's Mowers and Blowers from Altoona, Pennsylvania sent me. I actually used it for the first time the other day, and I put some grease in the front axle, not the axle, the front, you know, for the steering, man. The two grease fittings on the pivot for the steering. It seems to work great. I kept on pumping and pumping until some grease on the bottom started coming out, so I know it was full. Works fantastic. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease. I'm squeezing it right now. Ooh, that was fast. And I'm gonna just put some grease on this axle here. You're probably thinking, put grease on an axle? I said, yeah, don't worry, it'll spin. You know why? Because it's got the keyway on there, duh. That's what the keyway's for. It's for making the wheels go with the axle. So here we go. I'm going to put the wheel back on. Let me back this up a little. Keyway fell out. Just hold on to it. Find the slit in the transaxle and the slit on the wheel. Find the square, which I did. Goes right in. Take a screwdriver and just pop it in there. Put the washer back on. Put the E-clip on where the notch is here. The middle part has that notch right there, like that. You want to flip it upside down like this so it'll stay there. And you get your pliers. This is always a pain to get on. I mean a pain. Ooh, wow, that wasn't bad. And that's it. Drop it. I'm going to try it. So I'm going to try it, just I don't want to move my car and everything, so I'm going to try it. I've got about 20 feet of driving space.
was a brake adjustment, man. Awesome.
Another thing I wanted to tie up was this ignition coil. The boot was all like cracked and stuff and just fell off. So I had an old ignition coil that didn't work anymore. Took the boot off of that. I'm just going to try to stuff it in here. It's going to be kind of tough actually through this, but it takes some time and I'll just weasel it in there, you know. Actually, it was the curved kind. So I got one, put it back on. And sometimes this thing doesn't start very well because it feels like the compression's too high. So I'm going to check the valves. I bet you the valves have never been checked on this thing. I'll show you what I mean. Trying to start it now. Took the spark plug out. Try to blow out whatever was in there. There's nothing in there. So either the compression release isn't working very well, or I got to adjust the valves. Put a cloth underneath because you're going to have some oil that comes out from the valve covers. Gonna have to take out the spark plug, get it to top dead center. Good spark plug. Gonna grab a flathead screwdriver, stick them in the hole. Should be easy to turn now because the spark plug is out. That's top dead center. Let me get my feeler gauges. So, got my feeler gauges. I got a 4 10,000ths and 6 thousandths. Exhaust is 6, 4 is the intake. You see the exhaust pipe over here. This leads to a canal right there and into this valve right here. So over here is the exhaust, here's the intake, goes right down to here. So it's at top dead center, and let's check. 4. Wow, look at that. It's super loose. So that contributes to it hard to start, you know. The 6 on the top, very loose too. So these are going to need tightening for sure. Got a 10mm wrench in here. I'm going to just like turn it a little bit loose there. Stick that Torx in there. So we're going to do 6 here, okay? That's good. Nice. How about that first shot? Here's the 4. And honestly, you could just turn this like that. Wow, that's really tight. No, actually, that's okay. Messed up my Torx. That's good. That's good. That's all there is to it. Doing valves, if you know how to do it, is easy. If your gasket's still good, you can still use it. The valve cover does not give off that much PSI of pressure. So as long as you've got a good seal there, it'll hold the little oil that spills out from in there that lubricates the valves. So hopefully now this damn thing will start a little better. We'll give it a try. Well, of course that was easy. The spark plug was out. Duh. Where is it? Oh. It still doesn't start well. It's probably the compression release is bad. It's not moving with the crank. It moves with, it has to, once you crank it once, it's supposed to move so that the cam lobe moves freely to help it to start. If it's in the way, it would be too much compression. Problem is, if it's that problem, got to open up the entire engine and put replace the camshaft, which is a pain. There you go, fellas. That's all it was. Valves need adjusting. Cool, huh? I'm going to put the hood back on. Is ready to sell. I'm going to list it for $675. See you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers. I just wiped down that whole area there. Now it looks nice and new. Did what I could with that because there's some rust there. Wipe that stuff down too. You know, my friend Pete Lombardi, he's a very knowledgeable guy about tractors. He wanted to ask me whether or not this transmission was a Spicer or a, I want to say Peerless. Well, I don't know, but just for you, Pete, I'm going to climb down there and see what kind of tranny it is. Oh, Pete, I crawled down there. I saw the label. It's a Tecumseh Peerless. You know, this is a very nice tractor. Maybe I'll keep it. No, I'm not going to keep it. Got too much stuff as it is. I'm a flipper. Gonna sell it. Here's what my wound looks like after a week. It's okay. Hey guys, support my channel. Buy a sticker. Also, follow me on Instagram at Mowers Blowers. Check out my website, mowersblowers.com. See you guys on my next project.
See you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers.